2025 expectations. What does that look like? Well, let's start with 2024 as far as Aaron Rodgers. And that's what we're talking about, the expectations. 3,897 yards, 28 touchdowns, 11 interceptions with 63% completion percentage. Now, you are going to try, there's people out there that are going to try to convince you that those numbers equal somebody that's washed up. Oh, he's washed. He's washed. He can't play. Since when did almost 3,900 yards, 28 touchdowns with 11 picks, and 63% completion percentage, when did that equal washed? Like, in what world? What stratosphere? Like, when did that equal that? Now, I know the record was bad. Don't get me wrong. I'm not telling you that it wasn't bad last year. But you also know that it wasn't all his fault. So I'm not going to just sit here and let people just blame the entire Jets season on Aaron Rodgers. I'm not doing that. That's just stupid. You know, it's never just one person's fault. But you're not going to be able to convince me that that's washed. Now, look, the 11 picks, the last 2 years that he's played football full season, he's had double-digit interceptions. That is true. In 2022 in Green Bay, he had 12. 2024, last year, he had 11. The previous seasons, it was previous 11 seasons, he didn't have double-digit interceptions. So you might say, okay, well, he's getting older, now it's starting to become a trend. Okay. Maybe he's lost some arm strength. Okay. But it's still 11 interceptions. There's quarterbacks out there that have 16, 17 interceptions out there that are playing fine. So I get it. I'm just not in the business of calling those numbers washed. Anybody that does that, either they're trolling or they're not serious football people, because it isn't. Now, there's also context to some of that too. You could say, hey, man, they kept losing these football games. They did games and he got blown out. He said, and I totally understand that. And he didn't look good early. He did not. I can say he didn't look good early, but he got it together. That Miami game was early. Looked good in that one. The Jacksonville game, you look good in that one. All these losses that they had, and they went on some losing streaks. He didn't look great, but he wasn't horrible. That's not a washed up quarterback. You can even go back and look at the Steelers game that he played. Like, he threw the one interception to Beanie Bishop. That was a great play by Beanie Bishop. Then the other interception that Beanie Bishop had, the ball hit the receiver in the chest and bounced out. What else you want a quarterback to do? You go hand it to him. I mean, it was 25 yards down the field on the sideline on a rope. The ball hits the receiver directly in the chest. What's a quarterback supposed to do? Good play by Beanie. He was there to make the catch. But it is what it is. Like I said, not washed. I'm never going down that road to say that. Now if you had 2,600 yards with 18 touchdowns and 14 interceptions, then we could start having a conversation about somebody being washed. Yes. But not with those numbers from last year. No, I'm not going to look at it. His last 9 games, he had a bad outing. One. I guess you might say the San Francisco game, but he didn't play much. I mean, that was, the season was basically over. That was the last game of the year. But the Minnesota game, I'll give you. 3 picks. They lost 23-17. That wasn't a good look in the last 9 games. But other than that, and even in that game, he got pummeled, and gave up 3 sacks, or they didn't give up 3 sacks, was sacked 3 times. And again, I'm not going to blame all the sacks on the offensive line of the New York Jets either. Aaron Rodgers was holding the football a little bit too long. That happens. He's holding the ball a little bit too long. He was rusty to start the season last year. There's no doubt. But look, it's an Achilles injury, and I know Rodgers came back and he had some holistic medicine and, he said he was back sooner than expected until he got on the football field and we watched him run around. It takes a year. Most people will tell you it's an 18-month injury to get back to 100%. Well, when he steps on the field week 1 for the Steelers, it will have been 2 years. since that injury. So he should be fully recovered. Now, he's older. There's no doubt about that. He's 41 years old, so he's older, but fully healed from the injury. Maybe we can see a little bit more of athleticism, which I think we will. Not what he was 5 years ago. Stop that. We're not going to see that. We're not going to see 5 years ago arm strength. But make no mistake, Aaron Rodgers can still throw that football, people. He can still throw the football. He's still a better thrower of the football than probably 90% of the National Football League. So there's that. What does success look like? What does it actually look like? I've said it repeatedly that Mason Rudolph could win 9 to 10 games with this current roster. With the schedule, the roster that we have, and with his ability, the Steelers could win 9 to 10 games with Mason Rudolph. And I've said the same thing. Aaron Rodgers is 2 games better than that. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm penciling in the Pittsburgh Steelers to win 12 football games. Doesn't mean that at all. But what I'm just telling you is that Rodgers is better than Rudolph, and he is. And he can win more football games than Mason Rudolph. And he can. It's just that simple. And to think otherwise is silly. Unless that cliff that Aaron Rodgers has fallen off of or is going to fall off of is strictly downhill and he just jumps off the cliff, he gives the Steelers a better chance. So that's what I'm talking about when I say what does success look like? Competing in a playoff game. That is success. And look, trust me, guys, I want to win a playoff game. Y'all know what I've always said. If the Steelers could make the playoffs without winning a regular season game, I'd take it if that meant they won 2 playoff games. Okay? So I get it. I totally get it. We want to win. But also, there's a thing called building to success. And you don't just go from being, a lot of us think the Steelers are mediocre, and I think that's a fair assessment. We're mediocre right now. You don't go from that to highly successful overnight. And if you do happen to do that, it's usually luck, and luck doesn't last. There are building blocks to success. You don't just, okay, I'm mediocre and I go to success and I just stay there. No, because you don't know how to stay there. You have to build up to being successful, and then that way you know how to stay. And that's what the Pittsburgh Steelers need to do. So while I want to win a playoff game, I will be pissed off if we make the playoffs and lose again. You know what will make me even more pissed? If we get blown out in a game. So at least be competitive in a playoff game. If we can do that, then yeah, we got a chance. Doesn't mean that Rodgers is even the quarterback of the future, which we'll talk about that here in a minute. But that's what I think successful looks like. Winning more games, being competitive in the playoffs, winning a playoff game. Because, again, I think Rodgers gives the Steelers a better chance to win a playoff game than Mason Rudolph. I'm never going to back off of that, and not being the reason that we can't compete. I think that's a big thing. Because basically, since 2020, the reason that the Steelers haven't competed, now there's other issues. I mean, the line sucked. The defense wasn't always up to snuff. But the big thing that was missing was quarterback play. And that's the last 2 years have been too. We just didn't have good quarterback play. And especially the last 3 years, they've been the reason that the Pittsburgh offense wasn't any good, is quarterback play. So wouldn't it be good? Wouldn't it be great if the Steelers are in this season playing football and the quarterback is not the reason that they can't move the football? He can't complete a pass. It would be great if that is the situation. The most important position, a lot of people say in sports, debatable, but whatever. It's definitely the most important position on a football team. It'd be great if the Pittsburgh Steelers had one of those guys that wasn't the reason that we can't win at the level we want to win at. That would be great. Now, I know the level that some of you are going to say, well, we want to win at Super Bowl level. I do too, but we're also got to be realistic. We got to be realistic. But I know this, the quarterbacks that we've had over the last 5 years and before Rodgers got here were not capable of winning a Super Bowl. You know that, and I know that. He gives us a better chance. So just don't be the guy that keeps us from being able to be as good as this roster and coaching staff can get us. Just don't be that person. You know, a lot of people are saying, well, he's the third best quarterback in the division. And I think that's 100% true. Absolutely. Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow they are better quarterbacks than Aaron Rodgers. But last, I would say the Steelers had the third best quarterback in the division. You could probably even say maybe even, well, not fourth after what happened in Cleveland, but they were a game away from finishing second or finishing fifth in the AFC and going to Houston. If they'd have beat Cincinnati the last game that we played, then we would have been fifth, a 5 seed, and still the third best quarterback in the division. But here's the thing. Yes, we're the third best quarterback in the division. Number one, how many teams have better quarterbacks than Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow? Kansas City and Buffalo? Who else? So there's that. Not many teams in the entire National Football League have quarterbacks better than those two. Number two, as good as Lamar Jackson is, and as good as Joe Burrow is, don't we always find a way to beat them at least once? So as bad as our quarterback play has been, we still beat those guys, and they're really, really good. So that's the thing, guys. It's like, yeah, we have the third best quarterback in the division, but I don't think that means anything. Number one, because a lot of people don't have better quarterbacks than them. And number two, since when does always having the best quarterback mean that you're going to have the best team? Because again, we beat them on a regular basis. We beat Lamar Jackson. We beat Joe Burrow. We beat them on a regular basis. And we, in any of those games, when's the time that we've gone into it with the better quarterback? So that part has to matter too, people. That part has to matter too. That's all I'm saying. Let's go to the poll question. Poll number 3. Which game will be the most season-defining game for the Steelers in 2025? Is it A, Week 7 at Bengals, B, Week 13 versus the Bills, C, Week 16 at the Lions, or D, Week 18 versus the Baltimore Baltimore Ravens? So what game will be the most influential or season-defining? It's a good question. I'll be interested to see your answers. Make sure you put a 3 in front of the letter so we know exactly which poll question you guys are answering.